Usually, I'm going to ask you to stand to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, if you can find where you're going to sit, but stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And Deb, or Cousin It today, just gave the last call for raffle tickets. If anybody else would like raffle tickets, please go out to the hallway. Okay. Okay, welcome everybody. Can you please find your seats? Okay, I think I need a gavel or something here. In order for us to start on time, I need people at their seats, please. Okay. Well, thank you for that, and welcome, everybody. I'm Barbara Marchio, the president, and delighted to see everybody so festive today. Carolyn Holmes is the Halloween cheerleader of all time, and she's really gotten us into the festive spirit. Everybody looks great. And we do have a raffle ticket, like she said, for anybody who wore any costume, or as Carolyn defined, anything you wouldn't ordinarily be wearing. So, doesn't have to be an elaborate costume, although some people certainly went above and beyond.
That's for the costume raffle. No, you want me to hold it?
Okay, and while we're on the costume, excuse me, do you need a place to sit? Thank you. All right, and everybody got a raffle ticket if you came in a costume or something close to it, and the winner of a gift card is 0304226. 0304226. Okay. Deb is going to bring over. What's the gift card to, Deb? A restaurant and sandwich. I don't know the name, but. Oh, the local. Oh, okay. I thought you just meant a local restaurant. Okay. I'm not familiar with that one. Well, we are in for a Halloween treat today for a program of Halloween traditions in Boston. And we're pleased to have Anthony Sammarco with us to make this presentation. So it sounds fascinating. We're also having a getting to know you speaker, which we'll introduce in a few minutes, about a local gem, and we'll keep that, everybody guessing about that for now. I do want to welcome new members. We're delighted to have new members keep joining us. We have Ann Cahill, Pam Gibson, if you could give just a quick little wave, and Linda Rosenthal. A little wave? Okay, well, we're delighted to have you joining us, and hope that you'll look to get involved. There's so many different ways, big and small, that you can help the club do all the works that we do. So please reach out and let us know what you might be interested in. We have two guests today joining, Sonia Kane. Give a quick little wave. and Jean Sweck. I hope I said that right. A quick little wave. And we do find that many of our members many of our guests end up becoming members, and we're delighted to have them join us. I do want to give a quick thanks to some of the people that helped put all of this together today and every month. We have our raffle ticket coordinator, Deb Longchamps, or this today known as Cousin Ed. She looks fabulous. And her ticket seller assistants today, Bonnie Gabbery, Karen Mark, and Teresa Poole. So thank you. Those tickets will be drawn in a few minutes before lunch. Our centerpieces today are these wonderful candle holders, and they are going to be part of the raffle prizes as well. Our greeters that help get everybody settled in, Terry Cordo, which with the green stripe hat, Susan Thomas assisting her today, and Teresa Poole. I'm sorry, Teresa was a greeter, not a raffle ticket seller, so I apologize for that. We're going to have Cindy Collins, our lunch coordinator, come up and say a few words about a few housekeeping items.
Hello everybody, ghouls and goblins. I've got just a couple of quick announcements. So I want to just make another announcement about payment for the lunches. Venmo versus checks. We do prefer Venmo. Happy to help anybody who would like to learn how to use it. If you're going to continue to pay by check, I urge you strongly to let me know. Tell me a check is on the way, because we've had some problems with checks being delayed. So don't forget that. Everything on the buffet today is going to be gluten-free, dairy-free. You'll see the notices there. The rolls are not. If you would prefer to have a special roll, please let your server know and we can provide that as well. I want to just remind everybody as well, we have some new members and some guests. We do like to recycle, so please leave your name badge at the basket that I have on the registration table. That's a big help for us because we don't have to spend money to keep buying them. And then I do want to remind everybody, tomorrow we have another golf outing. There are some of you here that will be playing. For those of you that are here, well, the weather's not looking great. So we're going to all say a prayer tonight when we go to bed. We're going to request that they give us a beautiful day. It's not going to happen, but we're playing rain or shine. So plan accordingly. We are in carts. We're in carts, so at least you'll have some cover. And finally, the last thing I want to say, constantly, please take this time, silence your phone and your watch. It's very distracting when your phone goes off. I think people keep forgetting. Please make sure that happens now. Thank you.
Okay. And we're going to have a few words from Susan Van Tol, who's the coordinator, the lovely Statue of Liberty here, of the book club luncheon.
Hi, I am Susan Van Tol, aka Lady Liberty, whose real name is Liberty Enlightening the World. And so
Hold
for
it closer to
for your enlightenment, the world looks at that statue as a symbol of freedom. And so the world is represented by 7 continents, 7 oceans in the points of the crown. Enough of that information. Anyway, what I am here to tell you about is the book club luncheon. The luncheon of joint book clubs began in 1998 and continued on with a hiatus of 4 years, resurrected last year. 54 ladies enjoyed it, so I'm hoping more will come out this year. The date is Tuesday, December 2nd. We will have a buffet luncheon, again at Quashnet Valley Country Club, and Judy Lennon is our speaker, and she wrote her latest book, Callahan's Cottage. We sent out a notice so y'all could read that last month, ahead maybe in your book clubs. but this month we're trying to remind you now of the date and to sign up for the luncheon. So please, there's a registration form on the website, and by all means, hope to see you on December 2nd. Thank you.
One more quick thing. Anybody having trouble with the silencing of the Apple phone or the Apple Watch? That's all I speak is Apple. Raise your hand. I'll come over and help you. All right? So if you need any help.
Okay, and another member of the board, Kathy Olson, has some more housekeeping items to share.
Okay, I'm going to point out one costume that's very subtle that I absolutely love. A chip on the shoulder. Can you please stand up? I love this. Look at her. Isn't that great? We all said, you didn't dress up. She said, yes, I do. So what is that? She actually got it on Amazon. Okay, I am going to talk about our holiday boutique and luncheon. It is the fundraiser. It's going to benefit the Mashpee Women's Club Scholarship Fund. And for anyone who doesn't know, we were able to give out 4 $2,500 scholarships this past June to Mashpee seniors. And then parents supporting parents. And that's a group of people that have had a child that they've lost to drug addiction, or that they're having difficulty with it now, and they support each other. The other thing that they do is, and that's why we give them money, is when people come out of rehab, young people, they don't have any money. And when they go in halfway houses, they have to have their sheets and toiletries and different things like that. So they give them a little bit of money to get them started. So it's a wonderful cause, and usually a bunch of the parents come too. So the other thing I'm talking about is we have this beautiful flyer. Thank you, Cindy Collins. We had them out front with baskets. I meant to bring my basket. It's got a purple bow on it. So this is a fundraiser for our Sunshine Fund. In our Sunshine Fund, we're raising funds to support our members and their families through Pink Door gift cards to brighten the days of those recovering from surgery or facing serious illness, and scholarship donation will be made in honor of someone's loved one that has lost someone in their family. So you can help. We're asking for $5 or any amount you would like. We'll take anything to put towards this, and we'll keep track, not who gave it or how much, just how much money we have, and we'll give that. So please also let us know if you know of anybody that has lost a loved one or someone that's really sick. Okay? Thank you. So I have the honor of introducing Richard DeSorger. I'm going to let him talk about himself, but he is from the Historical Commission, and he's going to tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I was asked to tell a little bit about myself and what I do. First of all, I was born and raised in the town of Medfield, about 18 miles southwest of Boston, Massachusetts version of Mayberry, which is a great place to grow up in. After graduating out of high school, I went to the University of Massachusetts out in Amherst. I got my bachelor's degree out there. And then I was very fortunate to get a teaching job in my hometown. And I taught there for 35 years in Medfield, starting first in the middle school at social studies, and then over to the high school where I taught U.S. history, AP U.S. history, and then political science, and I was appointed the department chair at the high school there. And I became very involved, having grown up in the town, very involved into the town's history. I was president of the Historical Society back then. I was also appointed the town historian, and I was able to publish 4 books on Medfield's history. And I was a columnist in the local Medfield newspaper there. I wrote a weekly column on the different aspects of Medfield's history. I got involved politically. I was elected 2 terms in the Park and Recreation Commission, and then was elected 2 terms to what then called the Board of Selectmen in the town of Medfield. I married my wife, Julie. We have 4 children, 7 grandchildren, including a set of identical twin girl twins that just turned 3 years old. With my kids, I was able to coach Little League and youth hockey there. And after the 35 years of teaching, I retired from the job and actually got a great part-time job at the John F. Kennedy Library and Museum and in Boston with the education department. We had middle school and high school kids that would come in, and we had them for an hour, kind of like a classroom setting. They could do things like Cuban Missile Crisis or Cold War, civil rights, and then we did an hour in touring them through the museum. And then we had to get them out by 12 o'clock so that they could go and have lunch. But I liked it too. If you know where the Kennedy Library is, what I would do is I would then walk around by Carson Beach out to Sullivan's and Castle Island, and I would get my tuna roll and frap and sit with the seagulls, and it was a nice walk. So it was really a nice setting. I was there for 5 years on a part-time basis, and then there was a new job that opened up with the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court in the John Adams Courthouse, which is right by the State House. And it was the Director of Education and Public Programming, and I was able to get that job, and it just was a great job because you dealt with a lot of college students, a lot of lawyers. We had a lot of legal and justice people from many countries that came and were looking at what the American judicial system was, and was able to tour them through the John Adams Courthouse. Just a beautiful, beautiful building. But they would sit in on a case, and then we'd get one of the justices to do a question and answer type thing with them. And I really liked that. And but I decided to, when we moved down here to the Cape, and I started to commute by bus and then the train out of Kingston, and I said, wait a minute, I've retired, let me retire. So I finally retired down here. And when I got down here, I was appointed to the Historical Commission. And I gotta tell you a little story. We came here, we actually looked at a house in Eastham. We lost on a bidding war, and I'm so glad now we lost on that. My mother was sick at the time, and I was commuting back and forth, and to do that from Eastham in the summer on Route 6 would be forever. Which is so great about Mashpee is it's so close, you can hop on 495, and I was just an hour away. So I got appointed to the Historical Commission, and I was trying to do something, and I asked them, I was looking, as you know, every year a town puts out an annual town report. And so I was looking for, Mashpee becomes a town in 1870. So I was looking for one of the early town reports, and they said, we don't know where they are. We're missing all the town reports from 1870 to 1910. I said, what do you mean you're missing them? They said, nobody knows where they are. The town hall doesn't have them, the Historical Commission doesn't have them. So I said, well, I know from doing research in Medfield, usually a town also sends a copy into the State House Library. So I called up the State House Library and said, yeah, we got them, but they're too fragile for you to copy. But if you come in with your phone and you line up, 840 pages later, I was in the library at the State House lining them up. Now, I'm not reading, I'm just lining them up. Now, I have to let you know, my last name, DeSorger, is kind of an odd one. It's the D-E, then the capital S, O-R-G-H-E-R. It's Belgian in origin. We were always told we were the only DeSorgers in the United States. So I'm not reading it, but I'm lining it up, and all of a sudden I look down and I see this D-E capital S, and I look closer, and it says Mary, this is in 1887, in the school committee report of the town of Mashpee, and it has Mary Lee DeSorger, my great-grandmother, who worked, paid $89 for the year, then she worked in the summer, she got paid $10. We never knew that. We never knew that. The story was my great-grandfather, 19 years old, was an assistant carpenter on a ship from Belgium, came in and jumped ship in Boston Harbor. Please don't turn me in. Jumped ship, and he stayed, and he married this Mary, last name Lee, of Connecticut. They had one child, my grandfather. So he was a carpenter, and he built a lot of the three-deckers that are in Boston. So he got enough money, and he wanted to bring his mother over from Belgium. So he brings his mother over, but the mother and the wife, Mary Lee, don't get along. And Mary Lee says to him, either she goes or I go. And he says, this part we knew of the story. He said, I can't send my mother back. So she takes my 8-year-old grandfather and says, see you later. And she moves out. Now, we always thought she was a teacher, that she had gone to Franklin. She didn't. She came down here to Mashpee, 1887 to 1890, and taught in the North School, which is where Town Hall is now. And she was the last teacher of the North School. They tore it down in 1890. They built a larger wooden school. And so we never knew that story. And my grandfather was 8, 9, and 10, was probably the only Caucasian that went to school with all Wampanoags. Wouldn't you think the father would have said to his son, my father, hey, when I was a kid, I was down in the Cape, I was the only Caucasian with Wampanoags, or that his grandmother would have said, I taught Wampanoags, I taught down in the Cape. Nothing. He never heard a word of that. Just strange. So to finish the story, in 1890 she does leave and she goes to Franklin, which is where we knew the story. In 1900, the mother dies. She's been gone 13 years. She comes back, knocks on the door, I'm back. After being gone for 13 years, they moved in, they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, lived happily ever after. So, a strange family that I belong to. So, of course, my wife always says the spirits brought me to Mashpee, and that's why I ended up in the Mashpee. But I've enjoyed working on the Historical Commission. A couple of the projects that were near and dear to me was establishing a war monument to list the individual names of those from Mashpee that fought in the different wars. And if you're familiar with Community Park and the war monument that we dedicated 2 years ago, it has all the individual names of everyone that fought from the Revolutionary War through the war in Vietnam. And we just thought it was so special that we wanted those individual names so family members could come up and trace their fingers, and later generations will know of all the individuals that sacrificed and fought in all the different wars. So we're very proud of that. And what we're working on right now, because when we finished that monument, the war in Afghanistan was still going on. And so we told those from Kuwait and Iraq and Afghanistan, we will not forget you. And thanks to you people, last year's town meeting, money was appropriated to build a second monument, which will be opposite the one that's there now, and we'll have all the individual names that I'm researching now. I'm up to 335. Now the other monument only has 267, because you remember Mashpee's population was tiny. Even right up until 1960, the population was only 6,000. So, you know, we're talking small numbers. Since then, of the recent wars that were in, Mashpee's population is much larger, so we're going to have actually more people on that monument than the other ones, even though there were many more wars on that. And the other thing I'm very proud of is our veteran banners. If you've not been down to the park, we have 19 lampposts that are there, and we offer to any veteran, we do this in the spring, to have their picture put on a banner that hangs on the lamppost, and it has the branch of service and the rank that they were in and the years that they served, no matter where they were from. But if they live in Mashpee now or did live in Mashpee, they can have their banners. And those banners will be up until after Veterans Day. The other thing I do once a month is write a column for the Enterprise, the magnifying glass. But the key thing I wanted to be here today for is I was also appointed the one-room schoolhouse schoolmaster. And Mashpee has the 1831 one-room schoolhouse that's in the park. It originally was located in South Mashpee, right down here near the entrance into New Seabury and Redbrook and Great Oak. And it stayed a school there until 1901. And then it sold to the Baptist Church, became known as the Arkway Chapel. And it was used by the Baptists up until 1975 when New Seabury bought out all the land, including the schoolhouse. And then New Seabury wanted it moved off the property in 1975. It was moved over to the old Indian burial ground. And unfortunately, it sat there and it deteriorated. Raccoons got inside, the ants ate the sills, and it was falling apart. We were going to lose this historic gem of a building. And that's where I want to thank this organization, led by your, I believe your founding president, the president at the time, Sonny Merritt. And she undertook a fundraiser to raise $50,000 to save the one-room schoolhouse, and she did it. So I want to personally thank this organization, because if it was not for you guys, then we would not have that one-room schoolhouse today. And so I invite you all. It's Mashpee's history, Wampanoag history that's in that. It's a gem. We'd love to have you guys come for a field trip, or whatever it could be. We'd love to accommodate you. But I just wanted to personally thank you so much for saving our historic one-room schoolhouse. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for what you did for the one-room schoolhouse.
Thank you very much. It's fascinating to hear. We're going to read the raffle winner ticket numbers very quickly, and then we're going to start the lunch so we can get to our main program. The winners of the Italian Nana's Cafe $50 card. Everything begins with 607, so I'll just read the last four numbers. 2186. 2186. If you could come up, I would appreciate it. 2186. So we need to move on to lunch. The $50 Ace hardware card, 2024. 2024. 2186, that's you. Carolyn. Well, now you can't say that.
Thank you.
Okay, and the Market Basket $25 card is 2219. 2219. Oh, Karen, okay. Two at the same table. And then I'm going to read real quickly the centerpiece winners, which, again, if it's taken at your table, you can grab one from somewhere else. Thank you. 2224. 2224. 2112. Oh, Pat won one. Okay. Pat helps with the thing. 2112. 2112 is the second one. The third, 2081. 2081. 2081. No? 2063. 2063. Okay. 2031. 2031. 2030. That might be me, the same person, I don't know. 2030. 2174. 2174. And the last one, 2179. 2179. Oh, it's all on that side. Okay, Cindy, we're going to move on to our buffet. Cindy, do you have a table? Okay. Cindy will come around and... some of the upcoming programs, and then she'll be introducing our speaker. So if people could take their seats, please.
There. Can everybody hear me? No? Barely? How's this? Much better. All right, ladies. Perfect day at New Seabury. I am absolutely thrilled to see everybody in costume. Okay, this is my holiday. All right, next month is our holiday boutique. We've got vendors, silent auctions, and raffles. Now, last year it was sold out. So please, please, send your money in early because you don't want to be left behind. The December meeting, we're having the Winter Holiday Show. It will feature Atwater and Donnelly singing ancient songs and new carols and songs in celebration of winter light, Christmas, and American diversity. The highly praised husband and wife duo blend gorgeous vocals, an astounding array of instruments. So it's going to be a fun holiday. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker and our programs, Anthony M. Sammarco, a noted historian, author, and lecturer whose engaging storytelling has made the history of Boston and its neighborhoods come vividly to life. Mr. Sammarco has written more than 70 books on the history and development of Boston and New England, works that explore the people, landmarks, events that have shaped our region. He's a lifelong Bostonian. He is known for his lively lectures that combine deep research with humor and a genuine passion for preserving local heritage. His presentations remind us how the past continues to influence the communities we cherish today. So please give him a hearty welcome. We're thrilled to have him.
I do love the costumes, though. I wish we could do this every meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for inviting me. When I was listening to the introductions earlier, I heard the name Sonny Merritt. Sonny lived next door to me in Milton for many, many years, and she and her husband Wesley Merritt were good friends. So I was very intrigued. I had known she had moved to Mashpee, but the idea was we had gone into the Back Bay and kind of lost touch. But what a fun club. I belong to the Austinville Men's Club, and we don't do anything like this. Well, in a lot of ways, my books are fun. I enjoy them, and I hope other people will as well. And though I've done books on the Baker Chocolate Company, Howard Johnson's, Jordan Marsh, Filene's, S.S. Pierce, my latest one was The Christmas Tree Shop, and it's something that every one of us probably remember. Well, in January, my latest book will be out, which is a book on S.S. Pierce and Company. And these are things that we remember that our grandchildren will never know what we're discussing. My publisher is in London, Fonthill Media, and I've known Alan Sutton now for over 40 years. And one of the concepts is I'm always trying to find something new that will attract people to Boston history. So I created these things, traditions in Boston. So not only did I do Valentine's Day, also, as we would see in some instances, Easter, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. They're the way our parents and grandparents actually celebrated the holidays. And seen here on the cover of the book, Halloween Traditions in Boston, we see two children oohing and ahhing over jack-o'-lanterns that they've just carved. This is a photograph I found on eBay, and the publisher was able to colorize it. And I think it gives that little impression of what we were like in the 1960s and 1970s. Well, in a lot of ways, though, Noah Webster describes Halloween as October 31st, observed especially with dressing up in disguise, trick-or-treating, and displaying jack-o'-lanterns during the evening. However, Halloween is much more than simply a date or dressing up in disguise. It has deep roots in the Celtic culture of Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, and the Isle of Man. Halloween is short for All Hallows Eve, in its origins dating back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, the Celtic New Year's festival. The Morrigan, and the symbol of the Morrigan is directly above, was the Celtic deity associated with war and fame, who led her people, often appearing as a crow. All Hallows really means summer's end, and the festival celebrated the end of the harvest season and the coming of winter. The Celts believed that the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead were thinnest at this time, and the dead could not return and walk where they had once had before. Furthermore, those who had died in the past year and who, for one reason or another, had not yet moved on, would do so at this time and could interact with the living. It was a true thing that many people believed in. But in the 20th century, many people, in some instances, took trick-or-treating into a new height. This is Lewisburg Square on Beacon Hill. You can see that the doorways have their light, so it's illuminated, you know you could ring the doorbell. But in the foreground, you see not only jack-o'-lanterns, but all sorts of things that, when it becomes dark, become wonderful creatures of the spooky past. Halloween, though, in some ways also includes the ducks. And dressed in their festive Halloween costumes, these bronze ducklings in the public garden in Boston were sculpted by Nancy Schoen as a recreation of the Mallett family in Robert McCluskey's children's book, Make Way for Ducklings. Seen here, the ducklings, Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Whack, Pack, and Quack, are led by Mrs. Mallett, who in the classic story lived on an island in the lagoon of the Boston Public Garden. Mrs. Mallett taught them to walk in a line, to come when they were called, and to keep a safe distance from bikes and scooters and other things with wheels. And they're on their way to visit Policeman Michael, who feeds them peanuts daily. And though they're dressed in Halloween outfits, they actually are dressed for almost every single holiday in Boston. But you also began to see in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, just after World War II, many children would be photographed, not only in costumes. The little girl is in a mandarin outfit. The little boy is actually a skeleton with a witch's hat, not quite as nice as the witch's hats I see here, but they have Indian corn and shocks of corn. It's the perfect idea of the harvest season, and Halloween is a part of that. These photographs from the 1930s show two boys who have just carved a jack-o'-lantern, and lighted from within, their faces are illuminated. You begin to see in some ways that these things became the idea of what Halloween was representing in the mid-20th century. But the jack-o'-lantern is associated with the Irish folktale of Stingy Jack. Has anybody ever heard of Stingy Jack? Well, Jack was a clever con man who fooled the devil into banning him from hell, but because of his sinful life could not enter heaven. After his death, he roamed the world carrying a small lantern made from a turnip with a red-hot ember from hell inside to light his way. Probably saw him on the shore road. Many believe this legend evolved from the sighting of the whippoorwill swamp and marsh gases which glowed in the night. On All Hallows Eve, the Irish hollowed out turnips and carved them with faces, placing a candle inside. So, when they went about souling on the night when the veil between life and death was thinnest, they would be protected from spirits like Stingy Jack. But in the 17th century, most of the Puritan ancestors that had come to the New World were bringing with them the traditions, including the belief in witchcraft, to the New World. And seen here, Salem in 1692 was one of the most atrocious times when many people were not only hung but pressed to death because they were accused of being witches. This dramatic painting is titled The Examination of a Witch and was painted by Thomas Madison in 1853. The painting depicts Mary Fisher, a young girl accused of being a witch during the Salem witchcraft trials, who was seized by Deputy Governor Richard Bellingham in the absence of Governor John Endicott and shamefully stripped to the waist for the purpose of ascertaining whether or not she was indeed a witch, and whether or not there was a devil's mark upon her. And the devil's mark could be a freckle, a blemish, or just simply a pimple. It all depended on who was interpreting it. But seen here, this witch, a most certain, strange, and true discovery of a witch, is a booklet that was published by John Hammond in London in 1643. This described the Witch of Newbury, England, and she was said to be tall, lean, slender woman, and as a soldier supposed, to his amazement and great terror, could tread on the water with her feet as much ease and firmness as if one should walk or trample on the earth. She was actually accused of witchcraft, and of course, seen here depicted as an old barefoot woman, she was beset by 2 black ravens, the harbingers of doom and oft-companion of witches, and the soldiers said in that instance they immediately discharged a pistol underneath her ear, at which she sunk straight down and died, leaving her legacy to a detested carcass to the worms. Her soul we ought not to judge of, though the evils of her wicked life and death can escape no censure. In this instance, people coming to the New World had that aspect of the third world. And here the Reverend Increase Mather, son of the Reverend Richard Mather, a staunch Puritan minister from Dorchester, he was educated at Harvard College, and Mather opposed anything openly contradictory to, mutually exclusive with, or potentially distracting from his puritanical and narrow religious beliefs, taught by his father in the Puritan hierarchy. And when Sir Edmund Andros came to the Massachusetts as governor of the Dominion of New England and restored the Papist holidays and allowed a maypole to be set up in Charlestown, Mather was shocked and appalled. In fact, he said that the devil had begun his march of triumph in Boston. Mather not only served as president of Harvard, but he was minister at the Second Church in Boston. He would write a book called The Further Account of the Trials of the New England Witches. And this was something that tried to make sense of hysteria that actually would see hundreds of both men and women being jailed for being witches. In this instance, in his book, he called into question the use of spectral and other evidences allowed to be used by the judges in which the witch trials. Again, a blemish, the devil's mark. In the case of conscience, it states, doubts arose, as we have stated, about the evidence used in the trials, and it came about that the subject of the witch trials was discussed by the ministers in August of 1692. Well, the one man who actually had credence over everything that happened was Lieutenant Governor William Stoughton. He was appointed Chief Justice of the Court of Oyer and Terminator in 1692 during the witchcraft trials, and he ruled over the trials with the determination to eradicate all witches from Massachusetts Bay Colony, and he was heavily influenced by his conservative and narrow-minded puritanical convictions. It was he who allowed spectral evidence of the afflicted girls to accuse their fellow townspeople of witchcraft. And when the court was dissolved, Stoughton continued to enjoy political success, becoming the royal governor, and never apologized for his roles in the trial. Well, the whole aspect of hysteria was seen here. It's always said in some ways that the girls probably ate fermented bread, and that was something that would cause hallucinations. But it's not known whether or not the devil really did descend upon Salem or not, but 21 people would lose their lives. And seen here, the mass hysteria, turmoil, theatrical trials, and denunciations that led to the execution of 21 innocent people make the Salem witch trials one of the black marks against the province of Massachusetts Bay Colony. This painting is called The Trial of George Jacobs for Witchcraft, clearly showing the raw emotions of those in the room, but in the center is Jacobs' own granddaughter, and she actually accused him of witchcraft. And one of the judges rises from his chair as people react to the accusation. Jacobs was a prosperous farmer and well respected in Salem, and though he denied the allegation, he said, quote, "I am as innocent as a child born tonight," unquote. Jacobs was nonetheless found guilty and hanged as a witch in 1692. And this shows the trial of Giles Corey. Giles Corey was a rogue. He was somebody who had actually been, in some instances, a man who, though he declared non-guilt, was somebody who had once been accused of murder. But here, he was actually determined in this instance to remain quiet, and he stood mute rather than putting himself on the country to defend himself. He was sentenced to pena and forte dure, and even though it was an illegal punishment, it ended up being torturously crushed to death by heavy boulders on a board in 1692. And one of the major factors which made Giles Corey a prime target was not only his relationship with the rest of the community, but also his past encounters with the law, including a prior conviction for murder. His chosen means of resistance and dramatic death reveal a strength of character. Well, after the Salem witchcraft trials, I'm sure people still believed, not only in witchcraft, but also the aspect of things they had brought from their Celtic background. One of the games was Snapapple Night, and this is a painting that was painted to celebrate All Hallows Eve, a time when supernatural influences prevail, the time when spirits, both visible and invisible worlds, walk abroad and can be evoked by human powers for the purpose of revealing the mysterious future, and spirits can be called from the deep at will. The word Halloween actually means Saints' Evening, and it comes from a Scottish term for All Hallows Eve, the evening before All Hallows Day. Snap apple meant that children would bob for apples, and the child whose teeth were so sharp that they pierced the apple that could be brought from the bale would actually have his luck confirmed for the next year. There was also this print called Halloween, and it depicted a group of people around a brazier as an engaged girl places a nut on the fire. It was thought if the nuts burned quietly, her future marriage would be happy. However, if the nuts spat and hissed, the marriage would be stormy. However, if the girl put 2 nuts on the fire, one for her lover and one for herself, and the nuts spat and hissed, then this was obviously a bad omen for their future happiness. I bet we all did that. And there was a game called the Three Luggies, and the young girl in the center is blindfolded, and she's told to put her hand into one of the bowls. If she dips her finger in the clear water, she'll marry a bachelor. If in the milky water, she'll marry a widower. And if into the empty bowl, it's a sure sign that she will live in single blessedness all her days. This ceremony must be gone through with 3 times, and the hand be dipped twice in the same bowl in order to make the prediction of any value. So these were things that people brought in the 17th century, and they continued well into the 19th century. But seen here in a photograph of 1910, the sign above the tableau reads, "Shake hands with the ghost." With children bobbing for apples, floating in a huge zinc tub, remember, Snap Apple Night, they hold their hands aloft as a friend dressed as a ghost hovers above them, and 2 levitate on either side. Bobbing for apples started in Europe hundreds of years ago as a common way for young lovers to court one another. Did anybody court by bobbing for apples? If the bobber, typically a young girl, succeeded in biting the apple with the name of a love interest in one go, then fortune favored the lucky couple and fate gave them the go-ahead. However, it's also said the first person to bite an apple will be the next one in the group to have a marriage. Well, in some ways, by 1950, this young boy and his faithful companion look into a jack-o'-lantern. John Greenleaf Whittier wrote a poem that says, "When wild, ugly faces we carved in its skin, glaring out through the dark with a candle within, when we laughed round the corn heap with hearts all in tune, our chair a broad pumpkin, our lantern the moon, telling tales of the fairy who traveled like steam in a pumpkin shell coach with 2 rats for her team." This was how people began to perceive in the 20th century, and it was something that showed in some ways this is how we began to celebrate it. The basis of Halloween in Boston were now in place, thanks to the immigrants in the 19th century from Ireland and the British Isles, with children going from house to house asking for sweet treats in the form of soul cakes and carrying jack-o'-lanterns. Shortly after their arrival in the United States, the Irish had substituted the turnip for the pumpkin as their lantern of choice, because on Halloween it was much easier to carve. And the term trick-or-treating had evolved, as it meant that young people and children went on a destructive bend if they were not given treats, such as soul cakes and later candy. Well, the costumes of the early 20th century were remarkable. Not all of them were in character. This young girl wears a white lace dress and a witch's hat with stars, and she carries a jack-o'-lantern. It's a photograph that shows her in some ways reusing some of her things that she wears on a daily basis. But when she went out souling, or trick-or-treating as we call it, she was somebody who might encompass these two young men. The younger brother stands on a chair. He's dressed as an Indian, holding a small jack-o'-lantern. And the boy on the right, dressed as a clown, holds a Hubbard squash, cut out to look like a jack-o'-lantern. So you begin to see in some ways, between 1910 and the 1920s, various forms of costumes began to arise, including this. A young trick-or-treater is dressed in a witch's hat and a swastika-printed costume, as she carries a jack-o'-lantern candy bucket and rides a corn broom. In Hinduism, the right-facing symbol is called a swastika, symbolizing Surya, meaning sun, prosperity and good luck. However, before it was corrupted by the Nazi power in Germany, there was in early 20th century a huge fad for the swastika as a benign good luck symbol. The swastika remained a popular embroidery motif in Eastern Europe and Russia until its symbol of luck was forevermore corrupted. Well, children in the 1950s would also see here, not only were they dressed as we see with nightshirts on the left-hand side, a clown in the center with a devil's mask, a young girl who looks totally normal, and a devil on the right-hand side. But these young children, brandishing battery-illuminated pumpkin lanterns on sticks, arrive at the steps of a house seeking Halloween treats. One has a pumpkin bucket for his candy, while the others have large brown bags, which were obviously meant to hold larger amounts of treats. Whereas the jack-o'-lantern had a candle lit from within, these were battery-operated, and of course we'll talk about flame-retardant costumes. So it was an important feature to realize. Some of these costumes themselves were really quite unique. We'll see here the boy on the left is dressed as a record player cabinet with the Capitol Records of Canada record All My Loving by the Beatles on the front, ready to be played. The band, comprised of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, is regarded to be among the most influential bands of all time, and the record was released in 1963. It went, "Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you." Well, I want to commend his parents. No child could ever have thought of this. But it's a wonderful aspect to realize that not only a popular record, but even a popular movie could actually incite a new costume. Well, a group of children dressed in E.T. costumes descended upon Halloween in 1982. E.T. stands for the Extraterrestrial, which was a science fiction movie produced and directed by Steven Spielberg and written by Melissa Matheson. It tells the story of Elliot, a boy who befriends an extraterrestrial whom he dubbed E.T., who is stranded on Earth. Now, can you imagine all of these children as E.T., but they even have an aluminum foil wrapped umbrella with a Martinson coffee can, so hopefully E.T. can call home. It was really quite surprising. And this young girl in the 1960s, she looks quite determined. She's dressed as a clown, and her little dog as well with a little conical hat. It says, "Treats or I bite," and I'm not sure it's the dog they're talking about. But the whole idea is beginning just before sundown, cadres of children would come to get candy. And of course, seen here at, of course, that one polite house in the neighborhood, The hostess holds a sterling silver candy dish so the children can take a piece of candy. Mother accompanies them, and of course it's still daylight. So it's a great example. They had from 4 until at least 9 o'clock. But the trick-or-treating in this instance is my favorite. Look at the smile on that young boy. Not only does he wear a little poncho with clowns embroidered, but he has a 3-starred hat. His sister's dressed as a princess. And of course, the shopping bag, which is from the grocery store, has a skull upon it. I love it. It's indicative of the 1960s, and I hate to say it, the door is the same one we had on our home. Of course, we had an S instead of a T. And here, Holy Batmania. This group of Bat Boys and Bat Girls are dressed and ready to protect Gotham in relation to the 1989 Batman movie, which starred Michael Keaton and played in theaters continuously for almost 6 months. Batman was a beloved comic book character, and he and his sidekick Robin were well-known television characters in the immensely popular show. And the catchphrases were, "Batman has no limits," and Robin's "holy whatever!" exclamations. But in this same instance, do you remember the lunch boxes? They would be Batman or Robin. They'd be a variety of things. So children could either become them on Halloween or carry on a daily basis their lunchbox to school. And this one is Colonel Harlan Sanders, who started a nationwide food chain restaurant known as Kentucky Fried Chicken. And though an attorney, his great claim to fame was his secret recipe of frying chicken that he first served in South Salt Lake, Utah. And within a few years, the company was franchised with more than 600 locations across the United States. And in 1964, Sanders sold the Kentucky Fried Chicken, but even after its sale, it was still referred to as the Colonel's Chicken. I love it. Simple little jackets with a little bow tie and a mask. And of course, they carry the 24-piece bucket for their candy. But there was also Ruth Bader Ginsburg, wearing the trademark eyeglasses and lace jabot collar and holding a wood gavel. The child has a baby Ruth candy bar in front of her on the high chair table. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an attorney and jurist who served as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States from 1993 until her death in 2020. After a lifetime of flourishing in the face of adversity, she became an icon for empowered women who perceived her success as well-deserved and something all should try to emulate. Well, in that way, even here, Elaine and Kadeem Dixon wear Lion King Simba Halloween costumes at the Franklin Park Zoo Howell in 1998. The Lion King is a movie by Walt Disney that premiered in 1994 and soon was adapted as a critically acclaimed Broadway musical, and later as a book, showing how the lion takes its place in the circle of life. And the popularity of this character was immense, and the beloved Simba became a popular icon. Well, in that instance, we see some of the costumes that are basically things that they had worn once before or became special. But in the 1920s, a company called Weldon's created a fancy dress book for children. It had over 200 designs, and they could be used not only as a carnival or pageant or Halloween. On the left is a boy dressed as the Pearly King of East London, a little dairy girl, and of course a geisha and a pirate. These were things that you could simply sew up with remnants of fabric. But also, the Gibson Art Company of Cincinnati in 1925 created Halloween decorations and party goods. The black cat, symbol of Halloween, with his orange eyes, nose, and mouth, was a great example of something that opened up to show that you could make a black cat mask simply from a piece of black construction paper. It shows that you cut out the eyes and you paint on eyebrows, whiskers, and of course the mouth. But with the aid of a paper punch, you can actually affix yarn so that you place this mask on your face. It also showed children how to decorate balloons, one with a hat, the other to become a clown. So in this instance, it wasn't just the fact of going out trick-or-treating, it was creating something that you could enjoy the day of, and of course, a few days as well. They also created a new Halloween line for crickets. Now, during World War I, crickets were an important thing because you could simply click it and your ally would know it was you. And in that instance, by the 1920s, the company called Kirchhoff Patent Company not only created thumb crickets at the top, but also the crickets that you could simply whirl that created a wonderful sound, as well as further down, crickets that were filled with beans that you simply shook. Of course, if you're in an inner city neighborhood and there are hundreds of children and they're all dressed like E.T., where is your grandchild? Hopefully they have a cricket to let you know they're within eyesight. In the 1950s, we'd see almost every store, starting with W.T. Grant and Woolworths, offering these Halloween outfits, not only with jack-o'-lanterns made of plastic, but masks. Marilyn Monroe, Jimmy Durante, and of course in the center, one of the Marx Brothers. These were inexpensive, but with a sheet, you might become something quite fun. And seen here at Woolworths in 1950, who will you be on Halloween? It was at this time, just after World War II, that we began to see companies offering fire-resistant costumes. Many children had been burnt with lighted jack-o'-lanterns with a candle. Seen on the left-hand side, they would average anywhere from $2 to $3, but you could use a variety of different things, of hands, masks, gloves, feet, anything you could imagine to create that unique outfit. But seen here at Jack's Joke Shop on Tremont Street in Boston, not only did they have vinyl masks that would cause severe perspiration, but you could be Cleopatra, Jimmy Durante, Donald Duck, all sorts of different people, including politicians. And during this period, children would look for the months before Halloween of what they would actually dress as. Well, by the 1970s, Woolworths, seen here, would actually offer the fire-resistant costumes at $1.98. On the left is a skeleton, the center is Donald Duck, and on the right a witch. But they also offered candy and toys. And these toys not only had blowers, which was a piece of rubber that you simply squeezed to create a blow through the tube, but they were wonderful things at an inexpensive price. You also saw Sears Roebuck. You all look too young to remember Sears Roebuck catalog, 600 pages, but they had pages just on costumes for children at Halloween. And seen here at $4.38, I don't know how they came up with that price, you would actually have costumes such as a Marine, a policeman, an Army soldier, an Indian, and a construction worker. There was also Batman, Superman, and Mickey Mouse. But if you were a girl, you could be a nurse, a ballerina, a drum majorette, a princess, or a beauty contestant. These very sexist outfits were things in some ways you began to realize they were for one or the other, never for both. Also, seen here were TV superstars in bright flame-retardant costumes. And these were the things you would see on cartoons every Saturday. So not only did you have Bugs Bunny, you also have the Hot Wheels man, a football person, Bam Bam, and of course his sidekick. Down below, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Popeye, and a witch. These were fun, and for 2 or 3 hours, you could become someone new. But seen here, Have Gun Will Travel was the motto of Paladin. And beginning in 1958, this was a popular Western television series starring Richard Boone and Cam Tong that was produced and originally broadcast on both television as well as radio. The television version of the series was rated number 3 on the Nielsen ratings every year for its first 4 seasons. And it is one of the few shows in television history to spawn a successful radio version. So, with this 5-piece outfit including a vest, mask, tie ring, and belt slide, what young boy wouldn't be proud to be Paladin on Halloween? Well, during that period, they were going out. Initially, they wanted soul cakes. But in the period of the 1940s, major candy distributors began to make a line of just Halloween candy. And the Halloween candy could go the gamut from marshmallows to candied chocolate, as well as even Indian corn. But this was really quite fun. Halloween seems to be a night when children roam the streets dressed in costumes and masks or homemade attire, and seek candy from every house within walking distance. Candy companies such as Curtis, Brock's, Nestle, Schrafft's, Mars, Hershey's, Luden's, Carlton's, and Necco, among others, offered everything under the sun, from the well-known Baby Ruth, Butterfinger, Mars Bar, Fifth Avenue, Nestle's Crunch, and Nutlog candy bars, to Cracker Jack, Wrigley's Chewing Gum, Wowee Chewing Gum, Whistles, as well as Pez Candy, Indian Corn, and even that one house that offered fresh fruit. Well, seen here, 80 individually wrapped marshmallow witches was only 79 cents. It says, be good to your goblins. They would love marshmallows. They also had Curtis's Tricks or Treats, and they had 6 varieties of candy. So they had not only 12 5-cent bars, which were basically the Baby Ruth, but they also had 12 5-cent bars, which were Butterfinger. But they had smaller versions as well, and they were called 2-cent bars. So it depended on how much you wanted to spend on candy. But even Brock's Candy here had a group of children in costume approaching the door. This is the house, they say, that has the Brock's Candy. Somebody ring the doorbell. So people looked at this as something that was not only fun, but you never knew what the person was going to offer. Of course, this woman, offering to a pink bunny rabbit and a witch, has the 5-cent size, and she allows them to choose one, either a Baby Ruth or a Butterfinger candy bar. These were quite large, and today at CVS they sell for $1.75. We also had Schrafft's. Maybe you remember Schrafft's at Sullivan Square in Charlestown. It was a major candy house, but here, instead of a trick, Schrafft's offers a treat. So not only did you have a peppermint patty, a caramello bar, marshmallow covered in candy, and a marshmallow bar on the right-hand side. So caramel, marshmallow, chocolate, and mint. Wonderful things. But again, you also saw the Milky Way bar, something that's become endemic with Halloween. The bag actually has a black cat, and its smile actually shows Tricks or Treat. Well, the advertisement said, here, kitty, kitty, kitty. I don't know if it's a kitty on the bag or the child, but actually, I would even go to get a Milky Way bar. And of course, Mars Family. It had a Milky Way, and the shock of corners eating it as a clown peeks from behind. So these sweet stocking advertisements were things that showed you could buy a variety of things. But also, people serve things such as Cracker Jack, the trick that makes the perfect treat any time. Pre-packaged, caramel corn with nuts, as well as a prize in every package. It says the more you eat, the more you want. Pez, something that we still can see, and at Halloween had a witch's head. It said, kids, Halloween time is Pez time. And these candy dispensers, with a witch at the top, would dispense a very chalky, sweet, dispensed tablet. They're not my favorite, but they are something that has a variety of things for the different holidays. And there was again that one house that instead of candy, offered a box of cereal. All Post cereals happened to be just a little bit better, but I'm sure there was a little bit of disappointment on the child's face when they chose a treat pack. Well, there was also games, and some of the games included Halloween Fate Game. And this has black bats, stars, and crescent moons, and it was a game of Fate of Fortune made by Beasley Company, and by spinning the dial, it told you one of 16 fates that would befall you on Halloween. Some of the fates were, your dog will eat your homework, a bat will steal your hat, eat an apple every day, your teeth will fall out, and if you wake up late tomorrow, eat a lemon. Oh, what happened? Are we okay? Did somebody touch the table? Oh, okay. And then we have Witsy Witches. And Witsy Witches, the fortune teller in her book of stunts for parties, had a smiling witch with an owl perched on her outstretched arm another holding her broom as she stands behind a steaming cauldron. This box of stunts with fortune-telling and games of forfeits was a board game produced by Alderman Fairchild Company in 1928 and includes fortune-telling, a game of forfeits, lucky cards, and party suggestions. And you can see here on the back, simply by spinning the wheel, one actual fate would be yours. They were fun, but many times these games became a little bit mysterious, and the hand of fate was something that began to enter the fortune-telling realm. This was something manufactured by McLaughlin Brothers in 1901, and the cover of the box has a young bespectacled girl dressed as a witch costume with a peaked red hat and cape. And according to a black cat, both the inside ring with symbols of the zodiac, and around the ring are black cats, bats, and owls. And the Hand of Fate was a popular parlor game that piqued Victorians' fascination with mysticism. It was something that said that even the luminous spirit could actually descend upon you. And it was a spirited fun for parties of young and old. The center of this game has a witch riding her broom, which acts as an arrow to point to one of the 12 fortunes. The odd charms, symbols, and creatures include a ghost, bat, devil, and snake. But in that instance, you could also not just have a party with games, you could have a dinner party. I love it. She worked all day to make these party hats. She also decorated the table with a scarecrow and orange candlesticks. Dessert is orange sherbet and hollowed out orange shells. So you began to see that not only could they enjoy something, but maybe dinner was weenie witches. And these were skinless frankfurts. They were made by Armour Franklin, and of course Armour Star Franks had the open fire flavor. It says at the top, your goblins will gobble them. Well, my father was the vice president of Armour. My sister and I were the guinea pigs, and we would eat hot dogs that had mustard in the interior or cheese, and it would be our choice to say whether we liked them or not. We always said we loved them, otherwise our allowance would be discontinued. At dessert, you could have baker's chocolate, who served bewitching Halloween surprises, extra rich and luscious with baker's chocolate. So this chocolate cake and white frosting was something not only delicious, but it was something made with local baker's chocolate. But everybody would want midnight cake. And it says, have a spooky Halloween party and serve this cake. Well, it said it's bewitching, and this black midnight cake is just the thing for your gay Halloween festivities. Sprinkling strikingly dark and chocolatey, deliciously moist, tender and light, the recipe will be welcomed by thousands of women who are eager to learn how to make a perfect black devil's food cake. Well, any time of the year would be perfect with me. But these things showed in some ways that people tried to make something not only for the holiday, but also as an enjoyment. I don't know about you, but I still send Halloween cards, even since I was a child. Many people that I don't see would get a Halloween greeting. This card from 1910 shows a little girl with her witch's hat and cape and a black cat sitting on a pumpkin. And it says, may Halloween's frolics engage you tonight, and your future by witches predicted be bright. Lovely. It was a penny postcard. But you also began to see some of these things that gave little ditties. And it says the Halloween lantern. A woman with the zodiac design skirt, witch's hat, holds a jack-o'-lantern with a black cat, obviously speaking to us, and the moon. It says at 12 o'clock you must be good and ready, and hold your pumpkin good and steady. For by its rays of candlelight, on Halloween all things are bright. And of course in bed, Halloween time. Tonight upon your pillow, close your eyes and hide your head, for the fairies and the goblins will be hovering round your bed. Poor children, they probably read that and they thought it. And here, one of the best of all, if at midnight with a pumpkin light you steal to your room unseen, in the mirror appears the face of your lover true on Halloween. Heaven forbid it's not your husband. And a thrilling Halloween. This was by Ellen Clapsaddle and depicts two frightened children reading the story, Ye Ghost Story. 'Tis certainly a thrilling Halloween, and Clapsaddle was a well-known artist at the turn of the 20th century who was recognized as one of the most prolific postcard and greeting card artists of the era. But she also did this card, which is really quite interesting. It depicts a jolly Halloween and has the boy dressed in a white collared robe holding a large jack-o'-lantern. The boy's arm has a metal rivet that allows the arm and the pumpkin to move and to cover his face. Clapsaddle was acclaimed during her career for her prodigious work, and her artistic designs have become highly prized. And she's credited with over 3,000 designs in the postcard field during her career. And of course here, a black cat acting as a maestro. Sing a song of Halloween, pumpkins everywhere, cats and bats and witches are flying through the air. Began to see in some ways they were fun. They were indicative of the things everyone thought, with flying bats and little mice and jack-o'-lanterns. And of course, the one thing we were always told never to do, the Ouija board. Well, the Ouija board is something that many people use to actually bring about the luminous spirit. Well, even here, a Hallmark card of the 1990s, a little black kitten jumps out of a jack-o'-lantern and says, black cats, witches' hats, jack-o'-lanterns, jack-o'-lanterns, black, orange, white, green, these are the colors of Halloween. Children loved it, but now adults were beginning to look at it. And here, Halloween greetings. Dame Fortune will have smiled on me, her cat's the blackest ever seen. Will have brought to me the best of luck if I may see you on Halloween. Each one was a special thing, beautifully colored, indicative of the aspects of Halloween. But Halloween might be an old-fashioned way of saying the night before All Saints' Day, but it has become so much more than that. Halloween is still considered a powerful turning point in the wheel of the year, signifying the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And the pumpkin is often linked to rebirth and fertility and symbolizes harvests and crops. So with a tip of the hat to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, we realize that Halloween has become full circle. Since this is the time for goblins and bats, Halloween spirits, ghosts and cats, weird happenings and witches brew, these are the things I wish for you. Well, when I wrote this book, it was a fun book to write. I thought back to my childhood when I was let out 3 times to go trick-or-treating. My parents were very conservative, and they would say in some instances, obviously it's something you don't want to do. Well, every child wanted to do it. But in that instance, I remembered some of the things that were done as decorations in the house. So this book, and I do have copies of that and some others at $20 cash or check, is a great example of how we celebrate a Halloween that we know as something that is today, 50 years ago, not as popular as it once been. These books are beautifully illustrated, and they give great stories about Stingy Jack and the advent of the jack-o'-lantern. So in some ways, I wish you not only a happy Halloween, but I love the costumes you've actually worn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Very interesting. So that will conclude our program for today, and we go away with all of this Halloween information to help us celebrate. Thanks, and we'll see you next month for our Holiday Boutique. And again, please register early. Last year it was sold out by Halloween. So we look forward to welcoming everybody for that special event. Thank you.